what advice would you have for two different cohorts? Those just getting started in their career that may be intimidated, not know where to start, not know how to figure out, but they have the mindset of wanting to be elite and want to have a coach and use outside expertise and guidance as part of their recipe to becoming elite. What advice do you have for them for getting started? And then on the flip side, those more experienced in their career that may be a bit more rigid and set in their ways and say, I've been there, done that. I don't need help.
One thing that might help is when we think about how people show up to work, um, maybe like a little framework would help get us organized mentally around this. So if we think about how good a person is at something, that can be our y-axis, up and down. So if you're not very good at something, then you're an amateur or a beginner. And if you're really good at something, you're an expert, and you can kind of be on that spectrum. And then as we go from left to right on the x-axis, we go from people who are primarily concerned with doing things as they are today. And then as we go to the right, we're seeing that people are concerned with changing things in the future. Like they want to kind of like change the world as opposed to be good. So you can kind of see it, that top left quadrant, that's an expert who wants to do things the way the world works today. That's what we call expert. If you are somebody who's really good at something and wants to change the way the world works, we call you a modifier. So experts and modifiers are both really good at something, but the expert shows up to work to say, what do you want done? And then they're like, boom, I did it. I did it awesomely. And so that would be like, let's take the analytics world of implementation. The expert would show up and say, what do you want done? They'd say, I want GA4 implemented. And they'd say, boom, there's your awesome GA4 implementation. The beginner would be like, okay, I'm going to have to read some user manuals here, right? So the modifier wouldn't just do the GA4 implementation. They would say, but is that the right thing to want? Is that the project we should be doing? Is it the right priority? Is it the right choice? What is it going to do? How's it going to change our future? And their primary objective would be to make sure we're thinking about doing the right thing in the first place, doing things differently. And the person who's thinking about the future badly, we call them the anti-modifier. They get in the way of that progress. And we all know people who are like, oh, we should do XYZ better. And they're like, we don't need to do XYZ better. And it's like, okay, so now the future will look like the present instead of the future looking like a better future. And that's the way that they're just bad at future. And these modifiers are good at future. Experts are good at present, and amateurs or beginners are potentially good, could be good at present or future. So as a beginner, to answer your question, chooses their adventure, right? Choose your path. Here you are at the beginning of the game. You get to choose your path. You get to stay today more than ever. You can stay an amateur forever. You can never be good at something, and you can be not that good at it for forever and get paid by various companies for a super long time. If you do that long enough, you'll probably be promoted up to the point where you become an anti-modifier, where your decisions are now affecting the future and not just the present, because you're in charge of now of priorities and resourcing and stuff like that. If you are just coming out of the gates as a beginner, as an amateur, you should seek experts. If you're more comfortable responding to requests, if you'd like to be given the sanctuary of this is where we're working, these are the confines, these are our goals, these are the types of things, and you like kind of being given that table setting, so to speak, to do great work in, then you should probably surround yourself and get mentorship from experts, from people that are very, very good at what you do. And very good and competence is really defined as your ability to do things well and efficiently. So people who kind of, and to go back to your baseball stuff, Jim, who are able to point the bat and then hit it where they pointed the bat, those are the people you're looking for. You're not looking for, like in the Lego Batman movie, when Batman pulled up and threw like 600 batarangs and then finally hit the lever that opened the gate, and then he goes, first try, right? Like,
it's a great
that's
scene.
not who. Yeah, it's a great scene. It's one of my, and in our family, like we use that meme like all the time. Like if we screw something up, we'll be like first try, because it's just like so perfect. So if you find people who were successful but did it really inefficiently with their 500 throws, that's not expertise. That's trial and error, and trial and error is very different than expertise. And even experts are going to have some trial and error. So you got to be able to insert some nuance into your brain around this topic. But experts are very, very likely to get it right. I wrote a Medium article called The Statistics of Expertise a couple of years ago. And in that Medium article, I compared a person who has 50-50 odds of getting something right and a person who has 90-10 odds of getting something right. And if we make that person have to get 10 things right in a row, even a person with 90% odds of getting it right each time has only a 35 or 36% chance of getting 10 things right in a row. So even super awesome experts, and you see this at golf, you see this in basketball, et cetera, like what's your shooting average? What's your greens in regulation? What's your score, your score against par, et cetera. You see even the people who are best at this, who get it right 90% of the time, still make tons of mistakes in their path. And what that convinces people who have 50-50 odds is, oh, they're just like me. I can hit the ball into the woods too. I can strike out too. See, the experts aren't that great. But if you look at the probability of 50% odds getting 10 things right in a row, it's less than 0.1%. So we've gone from a 50-50 to 90-10 odds, which seems like a pretty big gap. It's almost 2x. It's not 2x. It's 356x. An expert is 356 times more likely to get 10 things right in a row than an amateur. And that's what I mean, is even that expert who's 356 times more likely, statistically speaking, at 90-10 odds, will still get it wrong 65% of the time, at least one thing wrong. They'll still make at least one mistake. So you have to build into your brain the latitude for mistake making that even happens at the highest levels of expertise, so that you can remember that latitude for them is this big, but the latitude for the amateur is infinite. And if you're going to seek experts to move up that path, find people who have that odd of success, right? The good performance on a per trial basis, but build into your psyche, like nobody's perfect. They're still going to get it something wrong 65% of the time. Now, if you want to be a futurist, you need to start looking diagonally and be mentored from people who change how things go, how things work. And that is really, it's a rarer population, but it's probably a more obvious population. People who have changed things have changed things. they have a history of doing it. I don't think there's a LinkedIn filter on their search to find out how to search for people who have changed things. But you can look and you can see when people have kind of thought, okay, how could we do this a different way? And mentorship from those people, it can be very eye-opening in the sense that it will help you understand those high-functioning tools of how they see, how they think, how they plan, how they act, how they learn. Super different.